Hello, and welcome to this episode of Spotlight on the Divorce Expert. And I am so grateful to have the opportunity to interview Kim Costa. She has appeared on the podcast, and now I get to speak to her on this special feature where we're going to talk all about your home, your environment, the financial connection between your home and where you are and where you should be and where you want to go. Kim is just a phenomenal resource on this. So she is a top 5% realtor with Sotheby's International Realty. She's also the creator of the Wheelhouse Method, and it's a lifestyle-based approach to decide if you're in alignment with where you are in your life and your home and your environment and where you can make some really effective changes. So Kim is also the host of the Your Wheelhouse on America's Dream TV station. And I think that's absolutely fantastic as well. So Kim, welcome.
Thank you so much, Marty. It's so great to talk to you again.
Well, and it's nice to talk to you again. I always say it's better when you've talked to somebody a couple of times when you get on these, because then you kind of got all this stuff out of the way and you're ready to just get down to the really important facts here. But before we do that, because some people may not have heard the podcast, tell us a little bit about who you are and why this is your area of focus in helping people who are going through divorce or who are single for any other reason, or who are married and are looking to change some things around in their environment.
Sounds good. Well, it's all about life change, and divorce is certainly a huge life change. I've been through divorce myself about 12 years ago. Remarried now. And so, more life change to follow that. So I'm a realtor in Atlanta, and as you mentioned. And so as I was going through these life changes, I started using a coach to realign my career, like everything in my life. Everything seemed to change. Once I started to change, I said, well, I just want to be the real me. And so ended up, not having the right partnership, not living in the right home, wasn't doing the right hobbies, didn't have the right career, all the things, took a personality test. And that coach got me to fill out the Wheel of Life, which has 8 areas from finance, career, family and friends, romance, spirituality, environment, and there's a couple of more. So there's, 8 of those areas. And as one or two get down really low, I found myself moving, and then I found my clients moving once I became a realtor as well. So that's what the method is based on.
Yeah, so I love that. I use the wheel of divorce with my clients.
Yes.
And so we have like legal team, spiritual health and wellness, profession, because you're right. Sometimes one transition triggers a whole bunch of other transitions in your life. Yeah.
It sure does. It sure does. And divorce ranks way up there along with, death and as far as like stress goes.
Yes.
But guess what else does? Moving also does, because you're probably already going through life change. If you're moving, your life has changed in some way, either forced or asked for. And so my process tries to give it some sort of structure and routine so that it doesn't have to be as stressful as it could be.
And I like to think of this, it's taken me a lot of years to get to this point, but if you look at change as opposed to, oh crap, I do not want to have to make this change. If you can just shift a little bit to, I'm open to see what possibilities this change can bring. Mm-hmm. Or if you're really all the way on the other side, you can go, yay, change. I can't wait to see what's happening. And it depends where you are. Like not everybody's going to get all the way over there. But at least seeing the possibility for change to bring good things into your life, I think is a really positive step, especially like you say, if you're not in control of the transition, if it's kind of being done to you.
That's right. And it does kind of make you look at how can I make the best of this in each area? And not everything's going to be a 10 out of 10. As we know, there's no such thing as perfect in most cases, spouses, houses, careers, everything. And so we just try to we prioritize what are the most important aspects. For example, finance. Is a big factor in many divorces. And so we're trying to make the best of the equity we have in our current shared home. And can we stay there? And we're making financial decisions. Do we want a fresh start? Would we like to go to a different city? Do we want to move back closer to relatives if we've moved away? So help with the kids and, taking some of the weight off of that caregiver part of the finance piece. So, I find that is a huge part of any decision with divorce, along with, well, romance, obviously, that's
Right,
completely
right.
changing,
Yeah.
but finance runs right along with it.
And I think this is something that realtors have a strong ability to educate and provide. I'm not going to say, obviously, nobody tells clients what to do. I know you and I have talked about this, that,
That's right.
all you can do is provide people with options and
Yes.
considerations, and ultimately it's going to be your decision. Um, but I think there is a real concern about not just can you afford to keep the
Hmm.
family home, like can you qualify for the mortgage, but there's a whole bunch of other expenses that sometimes people don't consider, and that's where working with an experienced realtor like yourself to really assess, is it worthwhile keeping the home,
Right.
or are there other options out there that might be better? So how do you advise, or how do you approach that with clients?
Well, since I do have a financial background, I always suggest the two things that they should look at. One is their net worth statement. How much money will they have after the divorce? And the other statement is their budget, really. It's what's coming in and what's going out every month. And then you have to take things like property taxes, HOA bills, yard maintenance, any other maintenance for the home. Like if you need a new roof and it's $20,000, it's kind of like saving up for new tires for a car. That's 5 years down the road. So let's go ahead and let's budget that in to put away every month because that's coming in the next 5 years.
Right,
So
right.
I try to have those two opportunities for them to take an inventory of what that financial outlook's going to look like. And if they have more money, wonderful. Let's sock that away. Let's find a financial advisor to do something with that, so that you can plan for your future. And if there's a shortfall, let's look at options. For example, I know a gal getting divorced that she and her father, who is aging, wants to age in place. He needs a little help and she needs a little help financially. They're
Right.
going to share a home so we need to find something with lots of privacy for each. Considerations for him on the main floor, her in another area, etc. So that's become a possible solution for them
Yeah.
in that respect. But let's say it's the other way around, that you are going to come into some cash or something from your divorce. Let's figure out. Let's employ a financial planner, because I know about finances, but they're the expert on where to put your money and how to
Right.
look at it and tax savings and um, you know, uh, the deferred tax strategies and everything like that. So I know some. My husband's a wealth manager, so through osmosis, I hear things. So quite smart. So I think it's just really, really good to know what your situation is. And
Yeah.
the problem that I see sometimes is folks who stick their head in the sand and they have a lump sum of money for their divorce, but without planning for that out into the future, they find themselves in a little bit of a pickle 5 years down the road when that alimony ends or the lump sum of money, perhaps they're living just a little bit over their means
Right.
and now they're digging into their retirement. So
Yes.
I think it's just really, really good to
Yeah.
know what you're getting into and, so you can sleep at night.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to a financial advisor about actually two of the things that you hit on. And one is that financial creep or budget creep, where you
Yes.
start, okay, I know I've only got support coming in for 5 years, and
Hmm.
I'm working, and I need to maximize my retirement or my savings in this time frame. And then all of a sudden you've got a little more disposable income. So you start making a few bigger purchases, and then
Yes.
slowly you're way out of your budget loop. So that's definitely something that can happen. And the other one that you mentioned that I think is important is that just overwhelmed with, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything with my
Hmm.
money. And so sometimes, or I'm just going to stay where I am because I don't want to consider the possibilities. And that can
Yes.
actually really damage you financially.
Yes.
And I know we talked about this before. Sometimes staying in the family home is not the right environmental space for you. Can you talk a little bit about that, Kim?
Yeah. I mean, it can keep you stuck in an old lifestyle. So what I like to do when I work with people or if someone's going to read the book is, who are you right now? You're perhaps no longer a single, I mean, excuse me, you're no longer a married person with two teenage kids. Those kids have gone off to college. You're now single. Perhaps you have a large house and you're missing your kids, you're feeling a little lonely, maybe a little sad for what used to be. But then if you could turn that around to who could I be right now? You could be an independent person who is out doing things that they never got to do before because they were busy being married and perhaps working and raising children. And now you have this freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I like to look at, the first part of the process is who am I? The four M's. Myself is the first one. What did you used to like doing? What did you stop doing when you got too busy? And let's look at some of those and sort of get back out into the community and reinvent yourself because, we're living longer and longer these days. We have a lot of good years left. Let's enjoy them and
Right.
do an inventory of what makes me happy.
Yeah. You mentioned the book. Tell us a little bit about that, Kim.
Yes. Yes, thank you. It's called Live in Your Wheelhouse, and wheelhouse is two words. And so it comes out in March. You can pre-order it now on Amazon and I believe Barnes and Noble. And you can go to my website too and take your little invoice that you've pre-ordered, and you can get some freebies. So 3 chapters early and a master class and all the good things.
Oh, cool. I'll make sure that I get that in the show notes
Yes,
below this video so people can go do that right
perfect.
away. Um, what are some of the common, I don't want to say mistakes because they're not really mistakes, misperceptions or misunderstandings people have about this whole idea of should I relocate? Should I stay? Because I know that's a big decision, right? And you've touched on some of this. Maybe you can afford the mortgage and maybe you can afford all the bills, but maybe you just don't want to stay in that property. So how do you make
Right.
that decision? That's a big choice.
So I think, it's going to take doing an inventory inside yourself. It's going to take a pause button, maybe not just like, hey, I'm going to run off and live in West Palm because it's going to be warm and wonderful. And that's fabulous. Maybe take a 2-week trip, try it out, see how you like the area, see if all the things you like to go do, the gym, the place of worship, the yoga, the library, the bookstore, the coffee shop, all the things that you like to do, go check it out for a minute. So don't, again, timing is everything. Don't wait too long to where you're in a financial bind, but also don't skip out too soon because you might make a very expensive decision
Yeah.
to move and then really not like the place.
Yeah.
So I think it really boils down to giving just enough time so that you're not mourning what used to be and that you're back in touch with the real you and discovering some new things about yourself or some things that were hidden. Because oftentimes a change like this awakens us, hopefully, to who we were meant to be because something wasn't working before.
Yeah.
And
That's a
that's
beautiful
why
way.
that's something was not working before. And now you've gone through the strife of a divorce. So let's get back to who you were meant to be and bring out some of those positive things that bring you joy. And so if your current home, if you're feeling lonely, sad, frustrated, oh, I have to figure out this, the gutters are leaking, the house needs painting, so my yard guy quit, all the things. If it's just frustrating you, you really need to pay attention to that because life is too short to be burdened by a home that's not bringing you joy.
Yes. And I think you said that beautifully too. Such a beautiful, gentle way of talking about, yeah, but this didn't work and let's move on and be who you, and it's interesting when you were mentioning Florida, I have talked to so many clients and this is nothing against Florida. So I'm not dishing a
Yeah,
state
it's
here,
not for everyone.
but,
It's
but,
hot.
but it's, well, not only that, but because of the recent hurricane damage and everything that's happened, like insurance, homeowners
It
insurance,
is
car insurance is
very expensive.
crazy expensive there. I had a couple of clients who went and said, yeah, the property's cheap, but I can't pay
Hmm.
for the insurance. So you're right. Actually going there and investigating
Yes.
all these things, even some
Hmm.
things that maybe you hadn't thought about, it really is important.
Absolutely. And that is very, very true of Florida. There are folks who have moved from up north to Florida, and now they call it the rebound move because it's too hot, it's too expensive. Well, for some people, it's too hot and
Right.
it's too expensive, they're saying. And then they bounce back to like South Carolina or North Carolina
Right.
because it's still warmer from where they came from. It's maybe a short drive to the beach or the mountains. and the taxes and the cost of living isn't quite as high.
Right.
And yeah, so that is a thing, that you have to go investigate. And I would highly recommend, if you are thinking about going somewhere, to reach out to a local realtor to say, hey, what are the estimated taxes here? And what are people paying for home insurance right now? And because sometimes in Florida, there's a certain zone that's rated higher for insurance than another. So hopefully that local person will have some more intel on what it would cost you. Like, why is this house so cheap? Oh
Right.
my gosh, I could move right in. Well, next storm you get, you're going to have a foot of water in there.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, and that's the reality. And it's not just
it is.
Florida. I mean, there's a lot of both the East and West Coast, both of them. I mean,
Absolutely.
California's got issues as well, different
Absolutely.
kinds of issues.
Yes.
So and then you get in the middle. If you're going to stay in the middle of the country, you're looking at dealing with winters, and a lot of people don't want to
Yes.
deal with winters. So
Yes.
you really got to think this through. And I love that. I really love that idea of renting an Airbnb for a couple of weeks and just
Yes.
experiencing, okay, what's the traffic like? How easy is it to get to stores?
Hmm.
That's a great idea, Kim. Like a really good idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so for example, someone who might visit Atlanta, they may come and stay somewhere fun and go to the botanical gardens and all this great stuff, but they're traveling from, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, and then they're traveling back at 2:30. Well, that is not real life
Right.
in Atlanta. I mean, if you want to go anywhere far in Atlanta, during rush hour, our traffic is a thing. And
Yeah.
unless you have a flexible schedule, that is not going to be real life. So, if you go to Kansas in the spring and it's beautiful, um, make sure you go back in January.
Yeah. Or make sure
And
you
if,
hit the middle of summer when it's 90 degrees and the wind's blowing 70 miles. I've driven through
exactly.
Kansas. It's beautiful. I mean, every state,
Yes.
every location has goods and bads,
It
right? So
does.
you
I mean,
just have
Palm
to really,
Springs. I'm
yeah,
headed there in April. Lovely, lovely. But I tell you, that was there last year and it started to get hot. People said, "Oh, it's so hot here in the summertime." It was 105 in
yeah,
April as we were heading out, and they were like, "Oh, summer's here. It's starting." And they
right,
said everybody leaves in the summertime or we stay inside.
yeah,
So you just really need to ask the locals. So what do you do in the winter when it's a foot of snow? Oh, we
right,
stay inside,
right, yeah, yeah. You
And
have
maybe
to.
you can afford two homes. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Wouldn't that be? Now, Kim, you brought up something really interesting, and I hadn't thought to ask you this, so I hope I'm not putting you too much on the spot. But
Yeah.
what can a realtor do? Because you said you could ask a realtor about what are the taxes and what are some
Hmm.
good neighborhoods. Let's say I've never bought a house before and I
Mm.
want to work with a realtor. And maybe you could share the difference between a realtor and like a real estate agent, because I know there's all
Yes.
different terms. And I know realtors are kind of in a different level. So can you
So
share anything you think?
realtors are, a little more bound to a professional organization that highly touts and encourages certain obligations to the client. And so it is an additional fee, and there are additional trainings to be a realtor. And but it is interchangeable really with real estate agent. It is the same thing. It's just a higher designation.
Okay.
So if someone they're part of the National Association of Realtors. And so that just is a professional designation. So
Right.
I'm sure that there are plenty of good real estate agents who aren't realtors, but I think the majority of folks who are with a really good company are required to be part of the National Association of Realtors.
Right. Because you
And
have a
and
different ethical and professional standards, right?
we
Yeah.
do. We are
Yeah.
held to certain standards and have certain trainings. And we really, we don't in Georgia at least, we don't have a fiduciary duty, but you would think we would because of the standards that we're held to. We don't have a financial fiduciary duty, but we are held to a very high standard of putting the client. And
Right.
I know personally in my company that I work with Sotheby's, we hold our client. We are very client focused.
Right.
You won't see us. Well, gosh, I won't even say that because I mean we are luxury. So you will see us pulling up in high heels. Some of us, not me. I wear hunter boots, but I'm tromping through the basement. But you will find there's some fancy folks, which is wonderful. I think it's really fun. But
Right.
we do hold our clients in high regard, and all the people I am associated with. We go above and beyond,
Right.
to help our clients. We want them to be happy.
So, what are some of the things that a realtor could assist you with? Like, let's say
Yeah.
I've never bought a house and I'm thinking, well, I can just go on Zillow or whatever, and I can just
Hmm.
pick out a house and, do it all myself, and I can save all any fees and any money and all this kind of stuff. What can a realtor help you with? And
Sure.
and
So
how is that
many.
actually in your best interest to have a professional on your side?
Well, so we're thinking about all the areas, like what's the school system like? What are we can pull up last year's taxes and we can discern, did that person have a senior discount? And so it says $534 a month, but really you're going to pay 2000 because they had a senior discount, and we know this because it's in our records. We can look all that up. We can look up a survey and read the survey and see, is there an easement going through your yard? Is something encroaching on your yard that you need to handle before you get into a binding contract and realize, oh my gosh, that person's swimming pool is 10 feet on my property
Right.
and
Right.
you've already bought it. The financial side, we work with lenders to, get you pre-qualified and make sure that that earnest money is being held. And then if something happens, we're working to protect you so that you get that money back. Should you pull out of the contract, our company holds some lawyers sort of on retainer. And any question that we have that comes up during the process, you don't have to hire a lawyer. You may if it's a very serious problem,
Sure.
but before you get into that situation, we make some phone calls to say, look, can you look this up? And what would you do? And how would you say we should word this to protect this buyer whose fence that he's going to buy is 15 feet over attached to the other person's house? I've had this happen.
Yeah.
And what do we do? It's clearly encroaching upon this other property. And so we figure it out before you go under contract and before you get in the house and go, oh, that's funny. Well, I never noticed that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know that you can obviously process your own home purchase.
Yeah.
You really do need to know what you need to know what you don't know in order to make
Yes.
that work, because you can leave a lot of money on the table at closing and things like
Yeah.
that if
Oh.
you don't have the right information.
Also, I mean, I have to tell you, even last, I love crunching numbers. So I did it for 8 hours a day before that. Don't want to do that. That's too much for me, but I love a 2 hour number crunch. So I pulled up a property I have some clients that it was on the market and then it went off and I reached out to the folks because I can like get their number and just say, hey, I do have some folks that are really still interested. Are you going to put it back on the market? We would love to work something out. Well, my folks were about to pay. So I ran the numbers on it, and my folks were about to pay $150,000 more than it would have appraised for because they
Wow.
really loved the home. And what they didn't realize is the square footage was much smaller than the other home. The other home sold for 1,050,000. They said, okay, yeah, we'll pay like 1 million for this other one. We know it's a little smaller. Well, I said, well, wow, it's a lot smaller, and it
Right.
should be priced around 850. So please, let's not. They were like, really? I was like, yeah, look at these numbers, y'all.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful, but you get in that house and it's almost 1,000 square feet smaller than the other one, and it's not going to appraise.
Right.
And so I also found that the other house didn't appraise either. So we're talking with other realtors behind the scenes to make sure that our clients aren't getting into a pickle.
Yeah.
So you buy a home because you love it, but has someone done the financial analysis on it to make sure you're not going to get caught on the other side losing money?
And even questions to ask the current owners that you might not think of.
Right.
I think most people know that you should have a home inspection before
Yeah.
you put anything under contract. But I think you also, like you said, easements, encroachments on your property. Are there
Mm-hmm.
are there any zoning issues you've got to think about? Like in some places, if you want to run a home business, you
Mm-hmm.
can if it's a certain kind of business, but if it's anything else, you can't
Mm-hmm.
have it on your property. And these are questions that most people, well, I'm going to say I would have never thought to have asked,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
except for getting to know so many realtors through working with people going through divorce, that I
Mm.
have a better understanding. But I certainly would always refer out to a professional before, saying, "Oh yeah, just go ahead and do that on your next home."
Right.
Yeah,
Well, even such things as what do the HOA covenants say? I mean, I had someone who wanted to paddleboard on the lake that their home backed up to. And I was like, well, let's get the lake covenants. No, you can't do that. Right. And
Yeah.
so I didn't want her to have this dream of, I want to paddleboard on this pretty lake right in my backyard instead of driving to the big lake. Well, come to find out, the covenant said, no, you may not. You can fish, but you may not swim or do anything else in this lake.
Yeah. And see, somebody like me who's never lived in anywhere where there's any kind of restrictions
Yeah.
on this kind of stuff, I wouldn't even think to ask that. I just assume,
Yes.
well, there's a lake. It's like people who
It's free
live next
game.
to a golf course. Sometimes there's incredible restrictions on homes that back onto a golf course, what
Yes.
they can
You're
and
not
can't
allowed to
do.
just go out there and putt.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to. No.
Yeah, you can't have a good old cookout in your backyard. Have
Yeah.
all the relatives come in. You can't. And these are things that people just don't think about. So, Kim,
Yes.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, and it works the other way around too when there aren't covenants. I live fairly close to a kind of a country area, a rural area, and sometimes, you might have a kennel behind you or I don't know, a chicken coop that's, encroaching upon your land and you don't realize that rooster's gonna or the chickens
Oh,
are gonna,
yeah.
be really loud and all the fresh eggs in the world from your neighbor are not going to solve that.
If you're not a morning person, you do not want chickens beside you. Kim, I have a feeling we could talk about this for a long, long time. But I think that you have shared an incredible amount of information, just some little tips and tricks and ideas and things that people should think about. And I'm so glad that your book is coming out. I think that's going to be an incredible resource for people. If people do want to reach out and find out more about what you do, or they're interested in getting the book, and I will make sure the link for the book is in the show notes. What's the best way to reach out to you?
So my website is lifestylefoundations with an S.com. And you can also find all the goings on. I'm going to start running workshops as well. And on the socials, I'm Kim E. Costa everywhere. So
Great.
LinkedIn, Insta, all the things.
Great. So definitely if you're thinking about moving, transitioning, upsizing, downsizing, make sure that you start following Kim, because as you can hear, she shares a lot of really valuable information. Kim, thank you so much for being on the show today and for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.
And don't forget, if you like this episode of Spotlight on the Divorce Experts, to like and subscribe and listen in for our next video.